Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Apologize about not being on the air last night, but considering what's happening around the world, I'm dealing with some allergies I just cannot shake. I don't know about you guys, but I have had the worst seasonal allergies. And today, right now, at this point in time, this is the best I've felt in several days. So I figured, well, let's go on live instead of you guys listening to me later tonight, snorting and snooting into the microphone. So for your listening pleasure, here is a sick-free Jake giving you the stats on our space weather. Right now, our solar wind speeds are coming in at 383.6 kilometers per second with a density of 2.2. Sunspots, 0. As you see the active region there in the 30 latitude in the northern part of our star, that is turning to the western limb now. We are blank. Now, there is a little bit of activity. If you look to the southern part and the eastern limb, it's coming around the eastern limb now. This was the sunspot active region I was talking to you guys about. Some people are confused with this time loop, and the sun looks like it's been the same for weeks now. Well, we were talking about how it's possible that this active region at the top could be here again in 27 days. It's also a very good possibility that the active region that we see in the southern part and the eastern limb is also from a previous active region that happened back around March 13th when it was Earth facing. So once again, we have one in the 30 latitude in the northern part and the 30 latitude in the southern part of our star. You guys do see a coronal hole that was Earth facing is now turning away. If you look there at the right on the space weather station, you'll see right above alerts, that is the current still picture of the sun. And right now there is a pretty decent sized coronal hole that is Earth facing. Now, KP indices are sitting at 1 with a maximum of 3. So we are in favorable conditions for earthquake. Now, Monday I said we were a 24 to 36 hour watch. I did not see that initial big quake, but we have had some volcanic activity over the past several days, and I'll get into that here just in a minute. Let's go over to the grandsolarminimum.com, check out some more space weather stats, some minor B-class flares from that sunspot as it approached the eastern limb. We had some minor activity, and as it's leaving and heading towards the western part of our limb, we are seeing a little bit more activity. KP indices were a little bit active for a period of time between the 8th and the 9th, but have now settled back down in the 2 and the 1 range. And let's check out what we have on the horizon. You guys saw right there on the eastern limb. Let me see if I can get my handy dandy arrow out. So here we are. This is the backside. We can't see that. Stereo B does not report. That's the current sunspot. Here's the first active region and the second one right behind it on the eastern limb. But besides that, we don't have really much to talk about. And these two areas right here are very small. So this may not even be a sunspot at all, just could be active regions. But right now we are 4 days without sunspots in a row, 74 days without sunspots in 2020. That gives us a total of 74% of the year without sunspots. All right. And let's go over to spaceweather.com. There's a little article here that I wanted to share with everybody. It's Grand Solar Minimum related, where the power goes out. A solar superstorm can make your lights go out. New maps released by the USGS show where the power is most likely to fail. The Denver metropolitan area, the Pacific Northwest, the Atlantic seaboard, and a cluster of Midwestern states near the United States-Canadian border. Bright yellow and orange trace trouble spots across the contiguous USA. Power companies have been long wary of the sun. Solar storms can cause strong electrical currents to flow through commercial power lines so that the lines can't handle it. Fuses blow, transformers melt, and circuit breakers trip. The most famous geomagnetic power outage happened during a space storm in March of 1989 when 6 million people in Quebec lost power for 9 hours. Whether or not your power goes out during a solar storm depends on two things. One, the configuration of the power lines in your area, and 2, the electrical properties on the ground beneath your feet. In areas more electricity resistive rock, currents struggle to flow through the ground. Instead, they leap up into overhead power lines, a scenario that played out in 1989 in Quebec. The new maps are possible. The new maps are possible thanks to EarthScope, a National Science Foundation survey of the upper two-thirds of the contiguous United States of America. Earthscope mapped the electrical properties of deep rock and soil on a continent-spanning grid with points of about 70 kilometers apart. USGS researchers led by Greg Lucas and Jeffrey Love combined this information with the layout of modern power lines to estimate peak voltage during a century-class storm. They found a huge variation in hazard across the USA. The largest estimated 1 per century geomagnetic field is 27.2 volts per kilometer at a site located in Maine, while the lowest estimated 1 per century geoelectric field is 0.02 at a site located in Idaho. That is more than 3 orders of magnitude difference. They wrote in their research paper, a 100-year geoelectric hazard analysis for the United States high voltage power grid. Notably, some of the most vulnerable regions are near the big cities: Denver, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Makes you think a little bit, don't it? With everything that's going on right now. But this was an interesting article, and I invite everyone to check it out, spaceweather.com. Click on that 100-year geoelectric hazard analysis for the United States high voltage power grid to get a look for yourself. And since we're kind of talking a little bit of science, via Gregory Wrightstone, author of Inconvenient Facts, posted this today, and I think this is very, very important, especially a follow-up to what I was talking about last week. We were showing CO2 levels and how the AGW, when the UAH came out, I'm shocked I didn't hear a lot about temperature drop, as we dropped in March a 0.48 above baseline after being at 0.76 above baseline in February. Well, I went in to talk about how that we were not witnessing any drops of parts per million, even though atmospheric CO2 has definitely changed. This graph here shows us that we're right around the 415 mark that I was talking about in our previous broadcast last week. So CO2 is still rising. Temperatures dropped in March by quite a bit. I think if I had to do the math in my head, we're talking about 0.28. Check this out, guys. This is the graph down here at the bottom. And of course, it's funny to me. It's on Facebook. Someone laughs at this. This is funny. One of the comments, "Oh, stop making such valid points. No one cares about the truth. Just bow down and worship the altar of sustainability. Easter is not essential. Usher in Earth Day. LOL. For real." But no, look, this is a change in the CO2 in the atmosphere. And I'm assuming this is based on what man puts into the atmosphere. Okay? Look at the numbers, how they've dropped. And this goes from March or February to March. So the bigger end here, this is February. And as we started to shut down worldwide, this is where we are right now. Okay? But notice CO2 rise is still happening. So I wanted to share these charts, and thank you, Mari, for bringing this to my attention. But I wanted to share these charts with you guys today because this is just another example.
Can you open them up in another window? Like, they're not even fully showing.
I can't. Well, I could do it separately, I guess, one at a time. Yeah, that's what it does.
I'll post them.
Yeah, post them in our community.
I'll post them in the community tab.
So these are the years. This isn't like February to March. Thank you, Mari, actually, for bringing that up. So 2019, we see where the levels are. It's still rising. Okay. CO2 levels, parts per million. Last I checked was like 416 parts per million for April. And then let's go back and check February to March atmospheric. So, as you can see, less atmospheric CO2 from man is not making that much of a difference on the overall situation. And yes, the most important post of the year, world CO2 emissions have been gutted over the last 45 days due to economic collapse. Probably similar levels that could be achieved by the draconian proposals like the Green New Deal. The gold. Okay, so I'm glad he said this. The gold standard for CO2 measurement and the Mauna Loa Observatory March concentration was just released. There was no apparent decline in atmospheric CO2 levels. It continues to rise at the same rate. If there is no decline in atmospheric CO2 after this massive decline in economic output, why should we believe that government actions will have any effect on using carbon taxes or forced compliance? This, to me, this is a legit post and a legit comparison to use this as the strength of the argument of the CO2 theory. This says it all right here. We've had 45 days of massive industry shutdown. If anything, two things that we've seen from this. One, the water is clear. There are parts of Italy that they were showing in the news that the channels, clear water. You can see fish swimming around.
That Gregory Whitestone,
Yep.
who I shared that post from, he wrote a book called Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know.
Yes, I've seen that.
He's
Okay.
a cool guy. We should reach out to him. And
He's on my Facebook friend suggestions. I should probably
I'm friends with him on Facebook.
That's probably why.
So
All right.
that's why. But definitely, he shares some great stuff, and I saw that today, and it just sort of made me laugh.
Yeah. Well, like I said, last week I brought it up because I thought we were going to hear a bunch of AGW people say, well, look at the UAH, it dropped. That's because we shut down the country, we shut down the world, and that's why the temperature. No. This is showing that CO2 levels are still rising. So where do you think we get the majority of our CO2 right now? One, the ocean. The ocean emits the most CO2 in the atmosphere.
Here comes the wind.
And two, you're talking about volcanic eruptions, which leads me into my next story. Strong explosive eruption at Sheveluch volcano, ash 30,000 feet. Now, Sheveluch, I like Sheveluch better. And I know it pisses off some people but that's the basis of GSM. You got Jake who can't pronounce anything, so that's why you're here. No, but seriously, this volcano has been active. It's been a thorn in many people's side because we have that really confusing report a year ago about the 73,000 foot ash plume, but actually it was the same height as what we're seeing right now, 33,000. And then we had the mishap again about a month ago where an individual who was new, according to Teo, there was an individual who was recently new at the observatory and had posted some numbers in the wrong category, said it was a 32 to 49,000 foot ash plume, and in actuality, it was no higher than 11,000 feet. The 32 to 49,000 was the warning that we could see a 32 to 49,000 foot eruption, and here it is. So they were successful. They predicted it. Explosive eruption on the volcano continues. Ash plumes as high as 32 to 49,000 feet could occur at any time. Ongoing activity could affect international low-flying aircraft as well. And this eruption took place on April 8th at 1910 UTC. So once again, the Sheveluch volcano is making the news. And look, 33,000 feet. Mari, wasn't there a significance in the location of where this volcano, something about how the part of the world that the location, the stratosphere is lower.
The stratosphere is lower at that particular latitude. So
it could be fair to say that this has a bigger impact on the climate when we see eruptions of 33,000 feet or higher.
There are several different scientific studies that show this region, the Kamchatka region, having a climatic impact on weather and stuff. I'll have to share the paper.
Sure.
I can't recall scientific papers off the top of my head, unfortunately, but it is proven that region with the volcanic activity is very prone to changing our climate in minor regional areas, not global, but regional, which then has sort of a trickle-down effect when you're talking about the complex weather systems.
Right. So that is something to watch. 33,000 foot eruption. That's happened now twice in 2 years, and we've had several minor eruptions as well. So really, when you're talking about 33,000 feet above sea level, It is kind of a big deal because of this location geographically of this volcano. Moving right along, extreme rainfall days in metropolitan Sao Paulo increased 4 times in 70 years in Brazil. Intense rainstorms lasting a few hours with huge amounts of water, as much as 3.15 inches or 4 inches, are no longer sporadic events. They're happening more and more frequently. So in the recent decades, they're noticing that we are seeing more of these dry period times and these heavy rainfall events. This is a study that was written here. The abstract is down here at the bottom. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they had to say here in the abstract, because we have talked about this particular area with massive rainfall. Our papers reviews recent progress in this study and understanding observed trends in extreme rainfall events in metropolitan areas of Sao Paulo. They're discussed in relations to hydrometeorological hazards that trigger natural disasters such as flash floods, landslides, and droughts that affect the population and local economies. A review of the most updated literature on rainfall and extremes in the MASP shows a significant increase in the total volume of rainy season rainfall during the last 7 decades. While there were practically no days with heavy rain more than 50 millimeters in the 1950s, these days have been occurring 2 to 5 times a year in the last 10 years. This, together in an appropriate occupation of risky areas such as slopes and banks of watercourses, leads to inundation of flooding and landslides. Changes in extreme can be partly due to natural climate variability, but can also be related to global warming and urbanization. There is an ample evidence of increasing risk of rainfall related to hazards. Now, listen, they acknowledge global warming. They didn't say AGW, which is thankful. Has there been global warming over the past 40 years? Not much. Very slight increase in temperatures. In fact, I saw an article yesterday, where a scientist who was part of the team that came up with that 2 degrees Celsius number admits that's a fabricated number. And I'll get to that at another day as well. I'm going to look more into that, why he says it's a fabricated number. I don't like to just put out, hey, look, it's not true. I want to vet this out. I don't want to come out and say it and stick with it yet. I haven't read the article, but it's saying this 2.0 temperature increase is garbage. It's baloney. And this paper here admits that we've seen an increase in the last 10 years. Well, the last 10 years, think about that. Solar cycle 23, 24, and now 25 are going to show more intense cosmic radiation exposure in our atmosphere. We broke space age records with cosmic radiation in our atmosphere in 2009. That was the last solar minimum, and that was to be said one of the deepest minimums we've had in over 150 years. And now, fast forward to solar cycle 25, going into 24 into 25, is now looking like as deeper than the last solar minimum we have. Obviously, we're entering a grand solar minimum, so we're going to continue to see these deep solar minimums as each cycle passes. 25 is going to have a weak max, along with 26 even weaker. 27 is predicted to not even have a maximum at some of the papers that I've seen. So, interesting enough, they make the correlation of the increased amount of basically rain bomb events that are happening here, and they're noticing in the last 10 years. And that's because we've seen a larger amount of cosmic radiation in our atmosphere, especially right now, and especially in 2009 and 2010. Thanks to Watchers.news. And let's go ahead and check out some more rain talk here. State of emergency in Thessaly, Greece, after severe weather, 7 inches of rain in 24 hours. Civil Protection in Greece has declared a state of emergency in 3 municipalities of Thessaly region after severe weather from April 4th to the 6th. Strong winds disrupted sea transport and downed trees. 100 kilometers per hour was reported in parts of central Greece. Heavy rain triggered flooding in Thessaly and Thessaloniki, I think that's how you say that, regions, among others. Damage from winds and flooding prompted civil protection authorities to declare a state of emergency in South Polone, Skoplos, and Skiothos municipalities on April 6th. Reported amounts of rain, 183.4 millimeters of rain is 7 inches of rain, folks, in 24 hours. and then 310 millimeters of rain in 3 days. I just had it. Oh, that's over 12 inches of rain. I had to think about this real quick because I just did the conversions before we went live. So lots of rain. Why do you think that? Yep, you're right. Cosmic radiation. Absolutely. And we've seen tons of flooding in this region too. Let's move on here to another article. Record-breaking snowfall engulfs parts of Norway. I know it's further north in the hemisphere, but listen, they're still getting record snow. Record snow is record snow. A number of record snowfall records have tumbled across Norway, particularly in the northern region over the weekend. According to state meteorologists, northern Norway has been particularly buried by snow throughout the entire winter season. With more heavy snow expected later this week, this season is likely to become Tromsø's snowiest. While people in the south enjoyed cool weather in the past week, the residents in the north shivered through the cold and struggled with the heavy snow. Officials' measurements in northern municipality of Tromsø said 12 inches settled in the area just on Sunday alone, April 5th. There were huge local differences, however. Here where I live, came in more than that. Areas looked at Breivkreit, I believe that's how you say that, Tromsø, got 4 feet of snow from Sunday to Monday, April 5th to the 6th. This person here says he's never experienced so much snow in one day. I mean, this is, wow. 4 feet of snow, folks, April. And a lot of people, again, I mentioned this in a lot of my broadcasts. A lot of people bitched about how, oh, we didn't see the winter that was supposed to happen this year. What happened? What happened to all that snow that was supposed to be here? Well, Northern Plains saw it. The Great Lakes saw some of it. The Northeast saw some of it. The Northwest saw some of it. Ohio, you didn't get your Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Illinois didn't get your typical winter weather that you probably were expecting. Parts of Nebraska saw some snow. The Dakotas saw some snow. But where we lacked and where UK lacked and most of Europe, parts like this and the Middle East and Asia and Russia, they had no shortfall in snow this year. As of Monday, April 6th, Tromsø had 63 inches of snow, just 5.1 inches away from the level at the same time in the record-breaking year of 1997. And what was going on during 1997? Murray! Solar minimum, exactly. Again, part of the reason why I report these stories, guys, is not just to be sensationalizing the topic of this channel or sensationalize, haha, I'm right, cold air, snow, blah, blah, blah. No, this is showing you the correlation that we have with cosmic radiation. These low periods of solar activity, they are producing the majority of these snowfall records and rainfall amount records. Now, I'm not saying we don't get record rain and record snow during solar maximums. There are freak instances where we do get a lot of accumulation from time to time. I remember in 2014 when we had those polar vortexes. Man, those were brutal. Negative 21 degrees was the high on a certain day. I remember living in Ohio in 2014. So it's not always the solar minimum that causes, but it seems like every time I read an article or show you guys a big story, we're talking about record amounts of rain, record amounts of snow, and then they correlate it to the last time the record was set, which was back in a solar minimum type situation. So it's not a coincidence, it's a correlation. And I think the biggest thing that the one thing I really like to do on this channel is just to connect the dots, help people connect the dots. I am not a scientist by any means. I am a researcher. Mari and I are very passionate about the research of this. In fact, Mari is more of the technical researcher on this subject here, but we are passionate about this. We are eager to learn just as much as you folks are. And then with what we already know, like if I was doing this 3 years ago, I wouldn't be able to connect the dots for you as clearly as I can now. Now I've seen this for myself for the past 4 years, and it's starting to be apparent. These are not coincidences. These are correlations that you factor in with low solar activity. Check out some more snow. Canada, 3 record snowfalls in 6 days for Thompson, Manitoba, Canada. And I had to break out the conversion here for you folks. But snow fell in 4 of the 6 days from April 2nd to the 7th, setting records on 3 of them. Now, the 15.6 centimeters, I had to do a little research. That is around 13 inches of snow, so over a foot of snow fell on Thursday, which is the most since the 1995 record of 6.8 centimeters. Now, the 15.6 is 7 inches of snow. 34.4 centimeters is the 12 inches plus of snow that fell. So these are breaking records. There was 3 records that were broke. 7, 12, and then the last one here is 5 inches. And that was the 12.8 centimeters of snow on April 7th. It was close to double the previous record of 6.5. So again, 6 inches on one day, 13 inches on Friday, and then on April 7th, we got around 5 inches of snow. So let's continue to read on. Friday's snowfall in Thompson was higher than any day in April up to 2010. What was going on in 2010, Mari? Okay, just, do you guys get the point here? I mean, these things are just so obvious. It's like there's a highlighter here, guys. These things they're popping out at me every time I read this stuff. Records that were broken in 95, 97 during solar minimums. 2010, another solar minimum. Environment Canada meteorologist said getting large amounts of snow in April is a little unusual for Canadians, but that having snow in April is not. This year's massive dump is a result of low pressure systems over central and northern Manitoba that have created variable weather and, at times, significant snowfalls. More snow is also forecasted to fall, folks, in Canada. And that would make sense because we're getting plenty of cold air filtering through starting late this week, or I should say this weekend, starting into next week. We will see colder air move in across. Actually, if you live in Ohio in the Northeast and Kentucky, that cold front's moving through right now. You're noticing the temperatures that have already dropped about 20 degrees plus so far. Frost will non-stop in Italy, 100% damage to some fruit crops. This is unfortunate. On top of everything else, and this is not just Italy, but most of Central Europe right now is dealing with this. But I picked on Italy today because it's significant at this point. The wave of night frost are affecting much of Italy goes on. In the north, the situation has reached an unprecedented level, with 8 hours below zero on the night of April 2nd and minimum peaks of -6 Celsius. Even the anti-frost systems are struggling because protecting an orchard below 5 degrees Celsius is not easy. So they have dealt with several nights of temperatures, and and this is going to damage fruit. Look, you got icicles forming here, folks. After these sleepless nights operating anti-frost system, David, president of APO Conropro, is dispirited. With these temperatures, the defense system is in crisis. We are talking about 5 to 6 degrees below zero in some areas of the province. Apricots, peaches, plums, kiwis in some cases. The damage is 100%. There will be less work for everyone. Nature has cruelly solved one of our great concerns, the lack of manpower. Well, with crops being damaged, there won't be that much to harvest. After the freeze of March 24th, 2020, the stage of the plants had advanced, exacerbating the damage of the cold nights. In 1997, the situation was not as bad, despite having been very serious. But here we are facing 100% damage for some companies. Again, mentioning 1997, they had a bad spring frost. Once again, 1997 was during a solar minimum. I've showed you 4 articles that refer back to records that also happened during solar minimum period. It is not a correlation. It's not a coincidence, it's a correlation. So not good. Not good. Not good that these fruits, apricots, peaches, plums, kiwis, 100% damage. On top of a food shortage concern that hasn't really fired up just yet. But we have to deal with 2020 plant right now with what's going on with COVID and the disruptions that we are facing with that. It's going to take manpower to work out in these fields. Right now, it's just the plant. And I think of all the workplaces right now, I think if you're a farmer, you probably have one of the safer workplaces right now as we speak. So most of you guys that are out in the tractors all day, you're not around a crowd of people. So some of you can still continue to work. But what's going to happen when we start harvesting, when we got more field hands out there, we got more people working on the farm? How's that going to work out? On top of what we are expecting for this planting season. And I'll tell you right now, spring is already starting off on a wet side, a very active storm side. We've got snow to talk about. Yes, in the United States. I want to show you guys real quick. Tornado pictures show buildings completely destroyed in Indiana. Arkansas has 100,000 without power. This is from last night, guys. And I have family that lives in Southwest Ohio, and I was concerned watching these storms. Thankfully, they hit at a point of the night where it was the energy from the sun had been gone for a while, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been in Ohio. But parts of Indiana, Arkansas have been devastated overnight by tornadoes, severe storms, with pictures showing destroyed buildings. More than 100,000 households were left without power. The damage was severe in parts of Indiana, with trees and utility poles were down during the storms. By late Wednesday night, more than 100,000 customers of Duke Energy and the Indianapolis Power and Light and Company were left without power after the storms had wreaked havoc across the states. Duke Energy map outages showed more than 70,000 customers went without power. IPL reported 19,000 were still without power as of early this morning. The town of Mooresville was hit pretty hard, according to Andrew Murray, who shared pictures of a building that had partially collapsed. Downtown of my tiny town of Mooresville, Indiana, has been hit pretty hard, he wrote alongside with the image. And yeah, I'd say so. EF2, EF3, maybe. We saw pictures of the tornado last night that was in Arkansas, not too far from Jonesboro either, guys. Another tornado hit Arkansas. I was going to put some video footage of that, but boy, oh boy, the copyright suckers are already on top of all the videos out there. So unfortunately, I can't show that video, or we'll get this video taken down, it seems. But you can see by the damage here in these pictures. There's some pretty scary pictures, too, of this tornado. Nothing's more scarier, in my opinion, when it comes to tornadoes, is when you look into the sky and you see the lightning lighting up the sky, and then you see this giant tornado. And what's scary is that we've had severe weather like this in the same region the last 2 days. And we got more coming up as well. Not for this area, but the bigger concern of severe weather right now is going to be in the south this weekend. And let's get right into that, actually. Let's start talking about, So Bernie Rayno over at AccuWeather is very concerned. He thinks that we have a good chance of some tornadoes. And I'm going to have to agree with him by looking at the setup here for the weekend. This low pressure system that you guys see here is taking its sweet old time. This jet stream is way out of whack right now, okay? But as this low pressure starts moving, it also will be because of the upper part of our northern jet stream will get its act together and get this system moving towards the south. Now, the bad news is that this will be a multiple day outbreak. And I say outbreak because on Saturday, Texas, Louisiana, you guys are going to see the first batch of severe weather. And then it's going to move on to Sunday. And there is going to be, like, here's Saturday night. This is the area of concern. Now, this is going to be more of hail, flash flooding, and some isolated tornadoes as possible. But the bigger concern is right here on Sunday, and once again, Sunday night. So here in the deep south, parts of Jackson, Mississippi, all the way possibly to Montgomery, Alabama as well. Central Tennessee is also on a high alert for tornadoes. So, and not only just a tornado or two, but they're talking about this being an outbreak. So Easter Sunday, you folks that live in the South, you guys need to be very, very alert. If you live in Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Georgia, southern central Tennessee, and parts of Louisiana as well, we are expecting a possible tornadic outbreak to break out across the South on Easter Sunday from the evening through overnight hours. Not when you want these storms breaking out either, when it's dark. And so far, we have seen, it seems like, I don't know, 6 or 7 different events this year where the majority of these tornadoes that are damaging are happening overnight. So we got to watch that over the weekend as well. And then while we're talking about severe weather in the South, we're talking about snow up here in the Northeast, believe it or not. We had a lot of rain move through the Ohio Valley last night. Now we got that. The East Coast, the mid-Atlantic states have been drenched all day. The rain is finally starting to taper off, but now we're getting high winds here in the Northeast and snow. I mean, 12 to 18 inches in Caribou. Bangor expecting anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow. 3 to 6 in parts of Burlington and throughout Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont. Believe it or not, 3 to 6 inches of snow is possible for upstate New York and the higher elevations. And even Mari and I, we live along I-87. We could see 1 to 3 inches of snow. So just 2 days ago, we were looking at 64 degrees, sunny, nice outside, playing basketball, throwing the ball. Now we're looking at nasty rain, high winds today. And by the time this storm wraps up, we're talking about snow overnight tonight into Friday afternoon. So lots happening. Actually, they're saying this could be a bomb cyclone. But let's take a look at GFS real quick. Take a look at our outlook. Here's that current low pressure system that's already affecting the Northeast. Yep, that's snow coming in, mixing in, trying to anyway, overnight tonight into Friday morning. On the back end of this, as this moves on out to sea, yeah, decent amounts of snow along western New York, central New York, and upstate New York as well. Not ruling out some isolated 3 to 6 inches up in these parts as well. But mainly for most of us in New York, unless you live in Albany and south, we're probably going to get anywhere from a coating to 2 inches of snow from this particular system. But you guys notice this high pressure system coming all the way down to the south. That's that cold front. These isobars being tight together, also showing that we are going to see some still windy conditions in Friday, but not as bad as what we're going through right now. High pressure tries to settle in the south and stay dry for a while, but that doesn't last very long. Another low pressure system coming in from the southwest, creating heavy snow for parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska as well, moving on through on Sunday, Easter Sunday. So we've got this is a pretty complex system too, guys. You've got your severe weather outbreak here. This is where we think the tornadic activity is going to happen. And then back here, we could see blizzard-like conditions, not saying blizzard, but blizzard-like conditions, high winds, heavy snow, blowing snow in this region right here behind it. So severe weather here for the springtime, and then up here we've still got old man winter. We still have this cold front that's trying to push through, and it's April, guys. This is heading towards mid-April as well. Let's put this in motion a little bit more. There's your flare up in the south, severe weather. I mean, this is, woo! On top of the severe weather that we're expecting here, guys, where you're seeing this orange and red, they're talking about anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain in this bullseye area right here. 1 to 2 inches possible for the rest of the south, but 2 to 4, maybe some localized 5 to 6 inches of rain possible on Easter Sunday. Meanwhile, this snow line gets a little bit more compacted and a lot less widespread, but still, this is 1 to 3 type inches of snowfall right here, guys. Parts of Iowa, eastern Kansas, Wisconsin, snow. April 13th. As the system moves through the Ohio Valley, the low pressure system takes it up the East Coast. This, to me, with the isobars being as low as they are, Wisconsin, you could have blizzard-like conditions on April 13th. Could be another bomb cyclone situation, too. We'll keep an eye on that. Our neighbors up north are definitely going to get pounded with snow on this system. And as this system moves out, some snow in the back end of the Northeast, that high pressure system, once again, another cold front, dipping a little bit further south. April 14th. A little bit of break. High pressure tries to settle in once again. Some minor rain, some minor snow. Yeah, snow. April 16th in the Northeast once again. And then another system moving in from Canada. Rain for the Ohio Valley. some snowflakes across the Northeast, very light, very scattered, but mainly rain for most of us. More rain developing in the Southwest again in Texas and Oklahoma, and it looks like another mess for the South on Monday, April 20th. Lots of green on the map on April 20th. But again, possibility for flooding and possibly severe weather outbreak as another low pressure system in the South is going to race up the East Coast. And this thing looks just as massive as the last two storms that we're talking about here. By April 21st, which is my son's birthday, we've got two low pressure systems, and this is a 1-2 punch. The first punch we'll get on the 22nd through the Northeast. As that's leaving, once again, the mid-Atlantic states and the East Coast gets pounded with heavy rain, and this storm system moves up the East Coast. Heavy rain predicted for parts of the upstate New York area, Syracuse, Buffalo even, and then heavy snow on the back end of this. April 23rd, heavy snow is expected in New York, mainly upstate, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then
fired, Jake.
Parts of Maine.
You're fired.
Why?
Because I'm sick of hearing it.
Snow?
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Stop it.
April 23rd, more snow for folks in North Dakota, Minnesota. Jesse, watch out. Snow for Wisconsin again on the 23rd. By the end of April, more rain, more snow. It's April 25th. I cannot believe the amount of these low pressure systems that look like nor'easters. And we're talking about a bomb cyclone over the weekend, this weekend. So there are 3 more systems that possibly could bomb out here in the Northeast. So weather is going to be very, very wet over the next several days here across the Plain States, the Midwest, the South, the Northeast, and in the Northern Plain States. The people that live in the Southwest, not too hateful, other than what we're going through right now. But other than that, I mean, not bad for California, Nevada. We do have a couple storms raging through, but really nowhere near as bad as what the Plain States, the Midwest, the Northeast, and the South is getting ready to go through here over the next several days to come. So, Mari, that's all I got for now. You want to come over here and say hello to everybody out there in the chat today? Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I know this is a weird time. I did say bong cyclone on weird. 420.
You're weird.
There's a bong cyclone happening on Monday.
Glenna caught the lots of green on 420.
I don't.
Har.
Again, this channel is all about correlations.
Like
connecting the dots.
Yeah. So Tom Jones said that a family in his area just finished repairs on their home from a tornado the day before, and another even worse tornado hit their home, destroying it, and they were injured and had to be rescued from the rubble. Awful. Glenna, who's a.k.a. Mike Jung in the chat, she's in West Virginia, and her umbrella pulled a Mary Poppins and disappeared. Like, I guess the wind there, she said it felt like a hurricane coming through, and she doesn't know all sides. It's just taken off her large umbrella, which it's very windy here actually in New York right now, but not.
Yeah, we're in a wind advisory.
Cheryl is in Maine getting beautiful, big, massive, huge snowflakes right now, Jake.
That will continue.
So we have a lot of people in the chat. I'm interested to see what they feel about this time slot. This is a new time slot, isn't it, Jake?
We talked. We discussed doing this at 4:00. Nobody else is on YouTube at this time that is in our community doing these live events. So this also gives a chance for people who live in UK, Europe, to get a chance to watch this during a normal hour versus catching our shows, which probably sometimes is 2 a.m.
I'm surprised we have as many people watching, seeing that we didn't really get a big push notification. We didn't really announce this. So I'll just give a shout out to some people in the chat. We got Dana. I'll go maybe in alphabetical order. Dana, Dog, Eli, Julia, Kathy, Kevin, Knife Collector. Well, Glenna, you're Mike John for now. Raven, Sahil, Seth, Cheryl, Tom Jones, and I don't know, maybe other people are added, but anyway, I probably missed a bunch of people because my list keeps on changing every 2 seconds as people come in and come out of the chat.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody out here.
I see a lot of new faces, so welcome to Grand Solar Minimum Channel. Our schedule has been really wonky. Life as we know it has been pretty much uprooted here. We are broadcasting live out of New York. We are the only state in the United States that is beating all the other countries in the world for COVID cases, besides our own country.
New York State is number 2 in the world for cases of COVID.
Yeah, it's not a great feeling. So hang in there, and all you can do is prepare what you can. We were talking, a lot of people are still working on their gardens. A lot of people are starting indoors. Several people in the chat are talking about flower shortages. We have a pretty big subscriber base from, if you combine all these social media platforms, I'm hearing all over the world that there are flower supply issues, people sending me empty shelves, and it's a mixed bag. A lot of people are asking me, is this a crop issue? Is this a people hoarding issue? Right now, it's a mixture of both, and we have to just sort of wait and see. Right now, it's not looking great. So if you can do little things to make yourself more sustainable on a daily basis, do it. Get growing. If you don't have potting soil, start a compost pile. Just one thing per day to get yourself started.
Doug says sugar is nearly gone too.
Is it now?
Yep.
Okay. I know pasta, a lot of people are complaining that the pasta is sort of dwindling as well. So a lot of wheat products. Same with bread.
So far, so good. I mean, it seems the stores have, we're doing good on supply thus far. I mean, the delivery times are being pushed out further, but for the most part, we're still getting what we order on our grocery list.
Well, Instacart, I think they're at max capacity for their employees that they have. They have, it's like just an adjustment that they're going to have to do. So many people have found their service, and now they're trying to get their groceries delivered. I know I tried to place an order and it got pushed back all the way to Saturday. And I know if you place an order today, it's like almost a week out. You have to plan ahead for your whatever groceries you want to top off in the house. But I know other people are saying that Walmart, their pickup option, order online and do the pickup. They load it right into your trunk. That's another good option. But it just sucks for people who have to buy food and they're not sustainable and they're not stocked up and they actually do have to go out.
Yeah.
It's not easy right now for anyone. And our grocery store workers, we were talking about in the chat, the CDC guidelines that they released for essential employees when it comes to who can work. And the CDC is now allowing possible asymptomatic people to work. So say your local grocery store had someone exposed to COVID, they're not tested, they could be positive, but they're asymptomatic. Typically what would happen before is they'd go into a 14-day quarantine. Now they're allowing these people, instead of being in quarantine, to actually go to work. And if work does not supply a mask, they are more than welcome to use a fabric mask. Now, that fabric mask will not protect anyone, really. It won't protect the person wearing it.
It's better than nothing.
But it won't actually filter out the virus.
No,
so if the person is actually carrying...
If you keep the distance, that's the key here, is you have to stay away from people, stay away from their... If someone sneezes, you don't want to be walking in the same area.
The fabric mask is not going to protect the virus coming out of the asymptomatic mouth to a person that doesn't have it. It's a little risky. And if you do wear a fabric mask, you have to make sure it's more than just one single layer. You have to double up on it. I've heard people using coffee filters, non-woven items essentially are going to be the best to use as like inserts. If you have a fabric mask that can take an insert, that kind of non-woven fabric is the best. I know you
that
hate me dropping truth bombs, Jake, but it's
it's
the darn truth. I wish I could turn
that's
on.
not it at all.
I want to turn on the webcam so everyone can see your face.
I love my mustache. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We will be back tomorrow at some point. I haven't decided if we're going to do another 4 o'clock show or not. We might. And then there's a possibility we'll do a call-in show as well Friday night. So we'll keep you posted on that. At least case scenario, we can give you a Grand Solar Minimum News update at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Again, we will try to keep this new time slot kind of consistent here. So we're just kind of working through things as we get by day to day. Mari, thank you very much for your assistance today in the chat and on the show. Guys, we hope everyone's having a safe day, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Take care, everybody, and thanks for watching.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.